My name is Riley Chin, and for 3 years I lived a double life. While my family pitifully asked if I wanted to trade that incomprehensible job for something stable, I signed orders worth hundreds of millions. While my sister was choosing lace for her wedding dress, I was choosing steel mills to build bridges that would last a century. They had no idea. And therein lay my bitter, lonely strength. Growing up as the youngest Chin sister meant being an echo, a loud, clear echo. That was Madison. Her path had been carved into the family granite from the cradle. Medicine, a brilliant career, the perfect groom. Dr. Trevor Walsh wasn't just a person. He was a living trophy, a symbol of everything worth achieving. And me? I was a quiet, uncomfortable question the family couldn't answer. Creative, they said of me with a forced smile. I heard behind it, useless. At 17, I made my first revolution. At the dinner table, to the clinking sound of spoons on porcelain, I declared that I would study urban planning. A silence hung thick as jelly. My mother slowly put down her cup. "Riley, my dear," her voice was sweet and venomous. "And what will you do for a living? Patch roads?" My father didn't even give me a chance to speak. "Madison will save hearts, and you will draw lines on the pavement." And then Madison, her light, ringing laugh, which cut more painfully than any knife. "Maybe you'll learn to put up road signs." Their collective laughter became a wall against which all my words bounced. I went against them. I went to Illinois. At my graduation, there were only shadows and a phone call. "Riley, you understand, the gown ceremony is a historic moment. We'll celebrate some other way." We didn't. Never. But the real chasm opened up at their engagement party. The ballroom, the crystal, the soulless glitter. My blue dress from Target was a stain of poverty on this gloss. Madison gave me a look, appraising and cold. "Oh my God, Riley," she whispered, intended for the audience. "You look like my husband's depressed secretary." Her maids of honor snorted. I clenched my hands into fists, feeling my nails dig into my palms. At dinner, I tried. I said something about transportation equity, about how bus routes could change the lives of entire neighborhoods. My father interrupted me with the air of an apologetic host. "She's still searching for herself, you know. She works for a small charity." Mom immediately changed the subject to Trevor's clinics. That night, I died to them. I stopped coming. I stopped calling. It wasn't theater. It was a capitulation to the need to preserve the last fragments of myself. Only she saved me. Grandma, Poe. Her voice on the phone was my anchor. "Do you like what you do, Bausa?" she'd ask in Mandarin. "Very much, Papa." "So you've already won." She left me all her savings and a note. "Build something important." Those words became my talisman. I invested them in every project. Meanwhile, my little job grew into a titan. I entered Governor Morrison's team as a grain of sand and became its cornerstone. She, an iron lady with a strategist's mind, saw in me what her own mother hadn't. A gift. The gift of seeing not lines on a map, but people's destinies. I grew up in the ringing silence of government offices. My memos became bills. My ideas, budget lines. By 29, I was the one deciding which city would get a new bridge and which neighborhood a sewage treatment plant. I signed a $2.3 billion initiative. I spoke to senators as equals. My salary of almost $200,000 was my revenge, quiet and graceful. The Lincoln Park condo, all mine, bought with Poe's money and my unbending will, was my fortress. I shaped the future of an entire state, while my sister, the beautiful and narcissistic Madison, chose napkins for her big day. The irony was thicker than morning coffee. She was preparing for a wedding, and I was preparing for a press conference that would change everything. They thought I was lost on their sidelines. They had no idea I'd carved out a separate highway for myself. And then the day had come, the day our worlds were destined to collide. Silence became my strongest armor. I never told them anything. Why? To see in their eyes the same cold assessment they gave my childhood drawings, To hear Madison say, "Well, you finally found yourself in the paperwork," or for my parents to immediately start telling everyone how their support helped me make it big. No, I built my world in perfect, resonant silence, and it was sweeter than any praise they could offer. Every missed Christmas, every curt phone response of, "Everything's fine, I have work," it was my conscious choice, my fortress of impregnability. They believed I was eking out a miserable existence somewhere on the outskirts of town, in a studio infested with cockroaches. They couldn't even imagine the panoramic windows of my living room, beyond which lay the entirety of Lake Michigan, like a private sea. They complained about taxes, while I had a quiet pension fund that could have bought them a precious suburban home. I was their disappointment, mulling over billions to save entire cities over breakfast with the governor. And then Governor Morrison called me. Her office smelled of old wood and power. "In 4 months, we're announcing the initiative, Riley, and you'll be its face, Chief Policy Officer." My breath caught in my throat. The entire press, the entire political elite of the state, black tie, you're coming out of the shadows. I imagined that face, my face, appearing on the screens in my parents' living room. "The program needs someone they trust. That's you," she said, and her voice held an unusual warmth. And then she added something that made my throat tighten. "And I'll introduce you in my speech as the daughter I never had." The world is painfully ironic. Madison's wedding is April 15th. The gala and the big announcement are both on April 15th. The universe was putting us on the same stage on the same day, preparing an unbearable contrast. The wedding invitation was as soulless as a press release. I politely said yes. And then, 3 weeks before the big day, as I was immersed in the numbers of future bridges, her name popped up on my phone screen. "We need to talk about the wedding." A chill ran down my spine. I already understood everything. Trevor's family is concerned about aesthetics. The photos for the newsreel have to be flawless. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "I don't think you should come." Me. "Are you kicking me out of your own wedding?" Madison. "Don't be hysterical. Your presence will complicate the picture. You don't fit in. Your lifestyle, your job. That's not the message." Every word was a blade honed over the years. Madison. "Mom and Dad agree." There it is, the official verdict. I am a stain on the pristine canvas of their respectability. Madison. "Please don't come. You'll ruin the photos. We'll have dinner separately sometime." I stared at the screen, my mouth tasting like ash. A hurricane raged within me. I wanted to lay everything out before her, bills, contracts, future newspaper headlines. But instead, I typed 2 characters, 2 letters that concentrated all my cold, mature rage. Me. "Okay. Thank you for understanding." I didn't answer. That same night, Madison cut me out of her life. I called Rachel. My voice was calm, but inside, everything trembled with cold determination. "Rachel, check the schedule." "What time exactly is my entrance?" 8:15, Riley. Everything's on schedule. Why?" "I just want to make sure everything's in sync." "You're ready. You've been ready for years," she said, and her voice held the firm confidence I'd been missing. Madison's wedding was at 5. The reception was at 6:30. My gala started at 7. Perfect, painful timing. The morning of April 15th was sunny and treacherously beautiful. I spent it not in a beauty salon, but in my office, hunched over the final version of the project. The numbers danced before my eyes. 2,300,000,000. 47,000 families who would gain employment. Thousands of miles of roads that would no longer shatter pendants and lives. This was my child, my titanic, tangible creation. And today, it was to be revealed to the world. I was home at 3. I put on a dress, a deep emerald silk by Jason Wu that hugged my figure like armor. It cost a fortune, and I didn't regret it one bit. Then the stylists arrived. Their gentle hands transformed me into a weapon, elegant, flawless, irrefutable. I looked in the mirror at a stranger, with a sleek updo and eyes accentuated so they could be seen from the farthest row of the room. Grandma Poe's diamonds glittered in her ears, my only allies. At precisely 5:47 p.m., just as Madison must have been saying her vows in the opulent ballroom, I slid into the back of a limo. We headed to the Hilton. At 6:30 p.m., as she posed perfectly for photos, I listened backstage as a technician adjusted my microphone. Test 1, 2, perfectly audible. My voice was even and clear. I mentally reviewed the key points, turning my nervous energy to ice. At 7:15 p.m., as she made her grand entrance to the applause of the guests, I was already in the thick of cocktail hour. The air rang with laughter and political gossip. "Riley," Senator Martinez's strong hand clasped mine, "today is your moment. Your strategy of uniting labor unions and environmentalists is brilliant. Simply brilliant." "Thank you, Senator. Without your support on the committee, none of this would have happened." "Oh, come on. We all know whose brains are behind this." At 8 o'clock, the official part began. I sat at the governor's desk at the very epicenter of power. Her hand found mine under the tablecloth and squeezed. "Are you nervous?" "No," I lied. In fact, everything inside me had turned into one huge, thrashing lump. At precisely 8:15 p.m., Governor Morrison took the podium. The room, filled with the state's most influential people, fell silent. "Good evening," her voice, low and confident, echoed through the vaulted ceiling. "Tonight is about the future of our roads, our bridges, our most fundamental belief that government should serve the people." She spoke of initiative, of numbers, of vision. The applause was like waves washing over the stage, but I barely heard it. I waited. And then it came, that very phrase. "But this project isn't about me. It's about the man who has been its heart, its architect, and its conscience for 3 years." My gaze fell on the crystal chandelier, and I felt cold sweat break out on my palms. She gave up fame for the cause, and today I demand that fame find her. The governor turned, her eyes finding me in the dim light of the room. A genuine, almost maternal pride shone in them. "And today, with the greatest honor, I introduce to you the Morrison Initiative's Chief Policy Director, the person I trust with the future of our state, my colleague and my pride, Riley Chin." The spotlight hit me in the face, blinding and hot. The room erupted in applause. Riley didn't just lead, she embodied this program. The governor's voice, usually so reserved, trembled with genuine emotion. 43 people on her team, dozens of federal meetings, hundreds of hours of negotiations, and all this at 29 years old. She's building a future for our children to stand on. The audience applauded again. But it wasn't just applause anymore. It was a roar of recognition. "I have sons," she continued, her voice breaking, "and I love them more than life itself. But Riley Chin, this is the daughter I've always dreamed of. She makes my heart swell with pride. Riley, come out to me." I walked through the roar, feeling the floor shift beneath my feet. Her hug on stage was strong, real, the kind I'd forgotten I could even dream of. Then the microphone was in my hand, cold and heavy. For the next 4 minutes, I talked about numbers I knew like the back of my hand, about bus routes for remote areas, clean water for Flint, jobs in depressed cities. My voice never wavered. This was my element. The press corps pounced with questions, sharp, tricky. I countered with facts, dates, budgets. Each answer had been honed over the years. I owned the moment. And then began a waltz of social rituals. Handshakes, smiles for photos, brief conversations at the bar. I was the center of the universe I'd created. At 9:43 p.m., frozen in place during yet another photo shoot with the governor and senator, a quiet frenzy began in my purse, vibrating. Again. And again. I smiled at the camera, feeling the phone thump against my ribs like a living, anxious creature. It wasn't until 10:15 p.m., having escaped into the quiet hallway for a minute, that I dared to glance at the screen. 47 missed calls, 63 messages. The numbers were growing before my eyes. Mom, Riley, pick up the phone now. What this circus? Dad, explain yourself. Now. Riley, what's going on? Everyone here is in shock. Have you been playing the loser this whole time? I opened Twitter with a slightly trembling finger. The governor's official account. Our photo. The caption, "Proud to introduce the architect of our future, Riley Chin." The likes were in the tens of thousands. The Tribune article had already come out. Young genius from Morrison's team unveils mega project. The comments were peppered with words like brilliant, innovator, leader. My personal number must have been buzzing like a besieged beehive at that lavish wedding reception. At 10:47 p.m., my phone rang again. Mom. This time, I pressed answer. Her voice wasn't a scream, but a strangled whisper, full of silent panic. Riley, what is this? Why are you on the news? Why is she calling you her daughter? I'm at a work event, Mom. I'm doing my job. Work? You're on stage. Madison said you're in some office. I haven't worked in some office for 5 years. I'm the governor's chief policy officer. For 3 years now. The silence on the line was thick as pitch. Then a quiet, cracked voice. This can't be. You didn't say anything. Not a word. You didn't ask. You decided I was a failure, and I didn't try to dissuade you. But why? Why hide it? A real, raw pain broke through in her voice. And then something snapped inside me. My voice remained quiet, but every word was like a blade. Because you don't deserve the truth. Because you yourself crossed me off the guest list today. Because my lifestyle embarrassed you. Because you've looked down on me my whole life. Why should I share my victory with those who always expected me to fail? We are your family, she breathed, and it sounded like a prayer and an accusation at the same time. Family? My voice on the phone was as smooth as a razor blade. No. Family is those who stand by you when the world is against you. And you're just people who happen to share my genes. Family isn't ashamed. Family doesn't throw you overboard because someone doesn't fit the aesthetic. There was a rustling sound on the other end, and my father came on the line. His voice sounded like he was trying to maintain control of a situation that had long since slipped out of his grasp. Riley, you're being unfair. We didn't know. If you just shared with us... What would have changed, Dad? I interrupted, my composure finally cracking. Madison wrote to me in black and white that I was a stain on her perfect picture. And you and Mom agreed. You considered my work insignificant for years. Why did I have to hand you the truth on a silver platter? We were wrong! My mother's voice was hysterical. But you've been deceiving us for years! I didn't. I've stopped banging my head against the wall of your disbelief. Do you feel the difference? At that moment, Senator Martinez gently touched me. Riley, WGN in 5 minutes. Live. I nodded, raising a finger. Mom, Dad, I have to go. I'm going live on the main state television station about a $2+ billion project I've been working on for 3 years. The very project you would call pothole patching, if I dared to mention it. Please stop calling. Riley, wait, can we... I hung up. The disconnect was louder than any applause. The WGN broadcast went off without a hitch. The host asked intelligent questions, and I answered with cool, measured passion. How do you feel leading a project like this at your age, he asked. A sense of duty, I said, looking directly into the camera, to 12 million people whose lives will be improved. Everything else is just background. Meanwhile, at the peninsula, the idol was crumbling before my eyes. Later, my cousins, secretly sympathizing with me, would describe the chaos. First, one notification on my phone. Then, another. Someone gasped softly, "Oh my God, is that Riley?" Someone handed the phone to Madison. She glanced at the photo, me in emerald silk next to the governor, and her face turned ivory. "It can't be," Trevor whispered, peering at the screen. "She's at a charity." But the internet searches left no doubt. Articles, tweets, my magazine profile. My mother scrolled feverishly, her lips silently moving. And then one of Trevor's colleagues, a political science professor, approached them, beaming. "Madison, this is incredible. Your sister is the same Riley Chin? Her model of infrastructural justice is groundbreaking. We study it at Harvard. You must be so proud." His voice rang with genuine delight. The perfect wedding was falling apart at the seams. Half the room was glued to their phones. The other half was whispering in confusion. "Where's your sister? Why isn't she here?" Trevor's mother looked at my parents with cold curiosity. "Where's your little one? Why isn't she here to share this happy day with you?" They had no answer, just pursed lips and a blank, shamefaced look. At 11:30 p.m., the phone rang again. "Madison, we urgently need to talk." I put it aside. I was having real conversations about the future of an entire state. And at midnight, they found me. A security officer found me in the crowded room. "Miss Chin, in the lobby. Your parents. They insist." I sighed. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, with icy, final determination. They stood in the middle of the marble lobby, two ghosts in their best clothes. My mother sobbed silently. My father burned with silent rage. "You've disgraced us," he blurted out as soon as I approached. "You've made us look like fools in front of everyone." "I've disgraced you?" I repeated, my voice too loud in the silence. "I just unveiled a program that will change the lives of tens of thousands of people. What exactly is disgraceful?" "You knew about the wedding. You knew how important this day was for my sister." I knew I was unwelcome on this day. Madison explained everything herself. I simply followed her request. I stayed away. "But you could have warned me. Tell her about your evening, about your position." "Why?" I asked, and finally, all the pent-up bitterness burst out in my voice. To hear that a real career is medicine, not politics? To give you another reason to be condescending? Or so Madison will accuse me of deliberately trying to upstage her special day. Mom's fingers dug into my wrist, cold and clinging. "Riley, please. People are whispering. Madison is on the verge of a breakdown. This was supposed to be her day." "It is her day," I replied, looking straight into her tear-filled eyes. "I'm not there. I'm at my milestone," which, ironically, coincided with the calendar. The universe was playing a joke, not me. But this news, these photos. At the wedding, everyone is talking only about you, not her. I gently but firmly pulled my hand away. "It's not my concern. I didn't ask for this attention. The date was the governor's decision. I don't control the news or the gossip at her reception." "You could have warned us," my father growled, his face crimson with impotent rage. "Give us time to prepare." "How did you prepare me?" My voice rose a half-tone. "Before deciding I wasn't fit to be a guest at my sister's wedding? Before years of insinuating my work was worthless? How did Madison prepare me before writing that I was a stain on her flawless photographs?" A security guard approached us silently. "Ms. Chin, the governor is waiting. Your interview on WGN is airing now." I nodded to him and turned to my parents one last time. "I have to go. Give Madison my congratulations. I hope the evening goes well." "Riley, wait. We can fix this." "No. I'm tired of waiting for you to see me. I'm tired of hoping that one day you'll be proud of me. I'm tired of begging for love from people whose respect for me was zero. You taught me yourselves what I'm worth to you. I just raised my price." I turned and left. They didn't follow. The news machine devoured everything. By Sunday morning, the Morrison Initiative was front-page news, and my face was on every single one. The Chicago Tribune ran a headline, "Riley Chin, a 29-year-old force changing the face of Illinois." The Daily Herald quoted the governor's words about the daughter who wasn't there in bold print. The hashtag Riley Chin trended. And the modest story about Madison's wedding was lost on page 20, with a single photo of the newlyweds looking like they were attending a funeral. By Tuesday, I was giving interviews to NPR and the Wall Street Journal. On the Today Show, the host asked, "Is your family overjoyed?" I paused, microscopically but noticeably. I hope so. But I realized building something real is more important than any external approval, even family approval. Those words cut through everything superfluous. The clip went viral. Meanwhile, my family was drowning in the aftermath. Madison called me 17 times in a row. I remained silent. I ignored her text messages of apology. My parents sent a 3-page letter by courier. I tucked it into a drawer without opening it. The truth, as always happens, leaked out. Some journalists connected the dots, the brilliant policy director and her absence from her sister's wedding that same evening. The socialites smelled a scandal. Now everyone in their circles knew. They'd thrown out that same Riley Chin because they didn't think she was good enough. Trevor's mother was furious. Madison's friends averted their eyes. Those flawless photos were now silent testimony to a monstrous mistake. A month and a half later, I received a letter. A real one. A paper one. In an envelope made of thick, cream-colored paper. The handwriting was familiar, laboriously neat. Riley, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't even expect a chance to be heard. But I have to say it. I'm sorry. Painfully. Utterly. You were right about everything. I was jealous. Always. You were the one with the sparkle in your eyes. I became a doctor because I had to, not because I wanted to. You built your life's work. I was just playing a role. When the conversation turned to photos and aesthetics, I was scared. Scared that if you were around, everyone would see the difference. They would see that you were the real you, and I was just a pretty picture. I don't expect an answer. I don't expect forgiveness. I just need you to know you didn't deserve any of what I did. You deserved a sister who would shout about your victories from every corner, not one who tried to hide you in the shadows. I'm proud of you. I should have said this a long time ago. Madison. I reread her letter 3 times. Each word was like a drop of ink trying to wash away an entire sea. Then I carefully folded it and put it away in the same deep desk drawer as the envelope from my parents. Some words are a lifetime too late. They don't heal. They only lift a burden from the soul of the one who writes them. And I no longer wanted to bear the burden of their relief. 8 months later. My corner office in the Capitol building is bathed in morning light. On the door is a plaque with my name and rank. The program is breathing full force. 47 construction sites across the state, 14,200 people who receive paychecks every day thanks to our project. We're not just on schedule, we're ahead of it. Governor Morrison is talking about a second term and wants me to lead this program for the full 5 years. You've become its face, Riley, and its credibility, she said last week, placing her hand on my shoulder. Legislators respect you. People believe in you. You've earned it. I thanked her, feeling a lump in my throat. And then she added, lowering her voice, and I want you to know, you have family here. My husband and I, we consider you ours. This isn't for the press. It's the truth. I turned to the window so she wouldn't see the treacherous tear rolling down my cheek. In 3 years, she's given me more parental love than all the previous 29 combined. Last month, I bought a house, a small cottage on the Michigan shore where the only sound you can hear in the morning is the cry of seagulls. I paid for it in cash, the very savings I'd saved while they thought I was a poor relative. I sent my parents a postcard with a view of the lake. On the back, I wrote, "The life I built has become a reality. I hope you're well, R." No return address. They won't need one. Madison sends cards for every holiday. I don't throw them away, but I don't reply either. Maybe someday. Maybe not. Now, it's my choice. And my time. My real family is my team. We drink wine on Fridays, laugh at the absurdity of bureaucracy, and support each other without a single snarky word. They chose me, and I chose them. Last week, I returned to my alma mater, the University of Illinois, to lecture. Standing before 200 young faces, I spoke about the meaning found in public service. During question time, a frail, bespectacled woman stood up. "My family, they don't consider politics a real job. How did you live with it?" I smiled, and the smile was calm and genuine. "You're building something so tangible that their opinions become mere background noise. You're not doing this to prove anything. And for those who really matter, you just become yourself. The rest, they were just never your people." The room erupted in applause. I stood in the same place I'd once left with the label of disappointment, and I felt the circle closing. And that evening, a message arrived from an unfamiliar number. "This is Trevor. I know you don't want to hear from us, but I need to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I stayed silent at the engagement party. I'm sorry I didn't stop Madison when she rescinded the invitation. I was complicit. You deserved better." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied, "Thank you for writing. I wish you and Madison all the best. R." And it was the honest truth. Wishing well doesn't mean letting someone back into your life. Some bridges burn because they were built on sand. They are not rebuilt. They're building new ones in the right places from durable materials. The infrastructure program will be my legacy. Governor Morrison's faith saved me, and the family I've pieced together, bit by bit, of people who see my value, that's my true victory. Madison was afraid I'd ruin her photos. She was wrong. My absence didn't ruin anything. It merely illuminated the truth. The only things that matter are what you build and those who stand by you, believing in you unconditionally. I'm not alone, and I never have been. I've just finally been able to see it.